All right, welcome along to the RT Soccer Podcast. I'm Raf Diallo. I'm joined by Anthony Pyne this week. We've an interview coming up with Josh Cullen, who is enjoying a stellar season with Anderlecht and also has been part of the revival with the Republic of Ireland over the last two windows. So that's coming up in a little while. But before we get to that, Anthony, our colleague Ed Leahy wrote a piece just about the Irish players that may need a move this coming January. And if anybody's looking for it, the title is New Year offers opportunities to Stephen Kenny's benchmen. So you'll find, if you're watching it on YouTube, you'll find it in the description, but it's on the RT website, just in the soccer section. But the two I wanted to focus on, just before we bring you the Cullen interview, is Adam Idah, who got to play a full 90 minutes on Tuesday for Norwich, and also Aaron Connolly, because they're two kind of young players with potential, but just this season things haven't really worked out for them in terms of game time. Where are you at in terms of their development, Anthony?
Well, I mean, not that much between them in terms of their age, but I think they are in very different stages in terms of their development because Connolly obviously burst onto the scene. It feels like a lifetime ago now when we got those two goals against Spurs, and it hasn't happened for him since. I mean, we all expect him to be, a prominent striker for Brighton and for the Republic of Ireland, and he's been unfortunate, between COVID and injuries have just hurt his progress. But he seems to be a guy who Brighton as a team are on an upward curve, and he is in danger of being left behind. I mean, it's kind of happened in the last 6 months, particularly that he doesn't look like he's part of the central plan for Graham Potter now. Other people have taken him over. So I think for Connolly, um, I think he does need a move just to kind of freshen things up for himself, a different challenge. And the talk is that Middlesbrough are interested in him. Chris Wilder is the manager there now. They're doing well. They're a progressive championship team now. I think they're fifth at the minute. A good manager who likes him. And I think he needs that. That there's no danger, there's no harm in him stepping back for that type of move at this point in his career because he's still a very young player, but he does need to play. He's not playing. Idah, he's in a difficult situation at Norwich. I think Ed touches on it in his piece that if you're in a team in the Premier League, which is an absolutely ruthlessly difficult league, no matter where you play. But particularly up front, you're in a team that is really struggling. They're struggling, Norwich, and they do look like they're going to go back down. It's very hard for a young guy to make an impression in a side like that, particularly when they're going in with get into certain games where he might be leading the line on his own up front and feeding off scraps. And the fact that he hasn't got many goals to his name for club or country will have hurt his confidence because that is every striker's main currency is goals. But I just think Idah is probably. I'm not so sure that he needs a loan move right now. I think he should probably sit tight. I mean, the likelihood is that Norwich will be back in the championship again next season. And if that's the case, I mean, another good campaign in that league where Idah might start to find the net a little bit more regularly and they start to win some more games, that could be good for him. But I do think Connolly at this point in his career, because not only has he slipped down the pecking order with Brighton, he's slipping down the pecking order with Ireland as well. In the way things have gone the last international window, he needs to get back playing games. He needs to get back scoring goals.
Yeah, because if we just go back 2 years ago to just after those games, or that game against Spurs where he scored twice, and then I suppose there was this clamour to get him in for Ireland, and I think there were the games against Georgia and Switzerland, and ever since then, that kind of the 2 years or so since, it has kind of regressed a fair bit. And as you said, yeah, I think in terms of like he's only played 4 games this season, actually, when you put it all together. In terms of minutes, like he's not far off what Adam Idah had played before he got the full 90 against Crystal Palace. But it just seems there's a kind of regression there, and probably some sort of a fresh start now. Probably loan is as you said, is probably the way to go with him. But and kind of like you mentioned there as well, the fact that Idah, with the change of manager with Dean Smith as well, who seems to be rotating a little bit. Obviously, Pukki was not available against Palace, but I guess there is a possibility there that if he can impress in training, that possibly he could break his way into that team, because it's not like Josh Sargent is scoring and Pukki isn't exactly doing it either.
Yeah, I mean it's true. I think just on Connolly as well, like it's interesting that Stephen Kenny would favour Idah over Connolly, or has done largely. Ireland are now a system team. They're very much a system team. There's a system, and managers, and you see this a lot. You see it with, say Klopp at Liverpool and Guardiola. You see a lot of these managers who are very dedicated to a way of playing and have a systematic way of playing, that they'll often find guys who slot into the system. Um, and because of that, say Ogbene is a good example. Like, he would not have been the most obvious candidate to elevate himself the way he has with Ireland in the last window. But they looked at him and thought, no, he fits exactly what we need. He has the energy and the stamina and the ability to be fluid and flexible tactically. And therefore, his rise with Ireland over the last 3 or 4 games has been, he's taken his chance. I mean, he's grabbed his chance with both hands. So that, I think, favours Idah more so than Connolly. I look sometimes with Aaron Connolly with Ireland, they're not exactly sure what to do with him. And the more Ireland mature and progress, the bigger a problem that is for Aaron Connolly. So he does need, to go out and prove, because he is a good player, he's a talented player. I think there's no question about that. But he does need to just remind people of what he brings to the table, and maybe find a manager like Chris Wilder who will uh, maybe just draw something out of him that we haven't seen yet. Because, as I said, like, it's been a while since he's played regular first team football at club level. So I agree with you, Raf. I think he just needs to start playing ball again and proving, showing people what he has. Although it is the same case for Adam Idah, I just feel that Idah is going to get more leeway with Stephen Kenny, because he brings a very specific quality to that team in terms of his ability to lead the line. Now,
Yeah,
he
the,
does
the
need,
physicality and the hold up play, which
yeah, just that,
should improve as well, but
exactly.
he has the raw
Yeah,
components. Yeah.
it should improve, because he will get stronger and physically more mature. But you know, he has to play. If it improves through playing against men and playing against really good, strong defenders. But I do feel that Idah, I'm talking in Ireland terms at the minute, like looking ahead to the spring and the Nations League. I think Idah will get a little more leeway. I think Connolly actually does have to kind of go out, and he's probably the one of the two that has a little bit more to prove at the minute.
Yeah. Now, before we bring you Josh Cullen and the interview with him, just on his time at Anderlecht and with Ireland, Pats are in a very interesting place. And just during this week, there's been a bit of movement in regards to players going from Pats to Dundalk to follow Stephen O'Donnell. Obviously, Dundalk are sort of going back to putting a few pieces in place that had been there before. Pats, though, in a very interesting place.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to feel for Pats. Like, this is, it's the way of the world and the League of Ireland, that every year there is a bit of a merry-go-round. But the dust hadn't really settled on their FAI Cup win when the O'Donnell news came out. And I can understand if a lot of them have a little sour taste over the way things have gone. Now, things are getting a little bit messy in terms of O'Donnell's departure to Dundalk. So that is a saga that could actually linger, and it's going to make them games pretty interesting this season. But look, I understand if St. Pat's fans are annoyed about it, to say the least, or irritated about it, because it's just of the timing of it. The fact that they couldn't really, it was only a couple of days, I think, after the cup final where this started to take over the narrative, having had such a great win in the cup final. Um, on the other hand, the players that have gone, I think there's Mountney, Benson, and Sam Bone are the three so far. Look, if the players want to follow a coach that they like and that they like working with and they've enjoyed and they respect, then especially to a club like Dundalk, which I think people would, the consensus would be that Dundalk obviously massively underachieved last season, but there's still the nucleus of a very good side there. And if someone like O'Donnell can get that right and add a little bit more quality and just settle things down, you could see them. You'd expect them this season to be right back up there again with the experience they have. I guess, like, from like Drogheda United have lost players to St. Pat's. There's two or three that have, a couple so far, that have followed Tim Clancy to St. Pat's, and I think they're keen to bring James Brown. They're one of a few clubs that are keen to bring James Brown as well. So this happens at this time of the year, but as I said, the timing of it and the way that's gone with O'Donnell, there's definitely a bit of bitterness there, I think.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, there's still plenty of time to go in the off season. But anyway, we're going to bring you that interview with Josh Cullen. So I was speaking to him just before Christmas, just a couple of days after Anderlecht drew 2-2 with Club Brugge, and it's been a great season for him. He's played pretty much every single minute of every single game this season, except the 27th of December when, as they were leading, I think 7-0 against Earshot, he was taken off for the last 20 minutes and a bit of a rest. So that kind of broke the pattern a bit. But anyway, the first thing I asked him was how he has found this second season in Belgium.
Yeah, it's been really good. I suppose, yeah, the first season, especially with the transfer window, the season before with COVID and everything not finishing until October. So that's when I signed, start of October. So you take a sort of period of probably 3 or 4 months settling in on and off the pitch. And then sort of before you know it, you're coming towards the end of the season. So yeah, it's been brilliant this year to come back settled and have a good pre-season with the team. And yeah, spend more time knowing what the manager wants from me and knowing what the manager wants from the team. And yeah, I think yeah, I'm sort of seeing the rewards for having that, and yeah, played a lot of games and played regularly, which is great.
Yeah, and you're coming into this period where there is a winter break, which of course doesn't exist as a concept when you were playing in England, and this is going to be your second year experiencing that. Can you feel the benefits, I guess, from last year's experience of having that kind of 2 or 3 weeks around Christmas?
Yeah, I think last year was, again with COVID, it was a short break, but I do definitely think when you have a busy schedule, it is nice to have the break, mentally and physically, I'd say. Obviously, you're fully focused on football really from the minute you start pre-season to the minute you end the season, if you were playing in the Premier League or Championship, all the way through. So it's nice to have that time. You make a lot of sacrifices. You spend a lot of time away from family and friends. So to have that little period of a week or so that you get to recharge the batteries, spend some time with your family and friends, and obviously you always stay focused on football. You never switch off because we love the game, but just time to sort of reset a little bit and have a time to clear the head and look forward to the second part of the season. And I think it's beneficial for players, yeah.
And from a language point of view, of course, Belgium's, unlike a lot of other countries, it's kind of bilingual in that they have French and Flemish. At the club and at the training ground, which one do you use primarily? And do you have to kind of learn a bit of both?
It's all English, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the main language at the club, meetings, training sessions, everything is done in English. Suppose lucky in that sense that I haven't had to learn French or Dutch, which I suppose some would say it's a little bit lazy of me, and I feel a little bit guilty for not doing that. But we have players from all around the world, so English is the language that's used, like I said, in meetings, training sessions, on a match day in a changing room. That's what we communicate in. So I've been lucky in that sense that I haven't had to go any length of time really with not knowing what people are saying. Very grateful for that, I suppose.
Yeah, good stuff. I suppose recently we were talking to Jack Byrne, one of your Ireland teammates, and of course he was in Cyprus recently. He's coming home, but he's also had other experiences abroad in the Netherlands. You've also taken that jump and done the adventure of going onto the continent. It's not a very common thing for players from Ireland or the UK to do it. Anecdotally, what do you feel is the barrier preventing players following what you've done and what Jack has done?
I think in Ireland and England, we're probably guilty of just focusing on the Premier League, Championship, and that's where you want to play. I suppose where it is one of, if not the biggest and best league in the world, it's kind of hard not to, because it's everywhere, always shown on the TV. It's so massive in England and Ireland that I suppose it's just natural to get drawn to. That's where you want to play, and then clubs. But I think definitely doing this has widened my eyes and my mind to realising that there's a big world of football outside of Ireland and England, and I think if it's the right club and the right time in someone's career, and there's a lot of things that you have to make sure are in place and are boxes ticked, I suppose, then coming abroad and experiencing a different way of life is brilliant. Coming to a city like Brussels and being in close proximity to cities like Antwerp, Bruges. You can be in Amsterdam, you can be in Paris. It's been much different to what my life was like, sort of living in Essex around London and not really knowing much more than that. So as long as the football side of things you look into and you realise that it's the best thing for your career, then I think moving abroad is a great step for a player, not only early in their career but at any time in their career, because the standard of football is really, really good.
And on the football side of things, in terms of things you might have learned technically that maybe you wouldn't have experienced in England, is there anything you've learned in the Belgian league that has maybe taken your game on or shown you a different side to it?
Yeah, I think a lot of credit with that probably has to go to the manager and the coaching staff here. I feel like I've developed as a player and my game has developed. And that just goes from the training sessions that are put on. It's not anything specific probably that I've sat down with the manager and said, look, I want to improve on this, this and this. It's just from playing in a team that suits my style, in and out of possession, working on things within that style every single day, with a plan to make us better as individuals and as a team. And I think, that suits me down to the ground and has improved me as a player, yeah.
And your boss, of course, Vincent Kompany, who we know very well from watching out at Manchester City and with Belgium. What is he like as a man manager? And I guess in terms of how he sees your role, because of course, while he was a centre half, he also did have that experience of playing in a more deep lying midfield role earlier in his career at times.
Probably can't speak highly enough of the manager. The detail he goes into is incredible. The amount of work him and his staff put in to prepare us for games and set up a game plan for every game is great. That I think is shining through with the team in sort of recent weeks, especially with the results we've picked up. And it's great to learn off someone like that. Like you said, it goes without saying, the career he had was a magnificent one. Played at the very top level, played under world-class managers, and done it for a long time as well. So to learn from someone like that every day is invaluable. And it's really definitely improved my game for sure.
And as a deep lying midfielder, I was just kind of curious how the formations impact your game. So in regard to Anderlecht, where you're playing with a back four behind you, and then with Ireland, where it's been a back three more recently, does a back three kind of give you that bit more security and ability to play on the front foot in that midfield role compared to the four, where there's less protection, so you need to kind of cover more?
Yeah, I definitely think that. Obviously, if you have three centre backs behind you, you have a little bit more license to join in with attacks when the time's right, especially if you know your other sort of your midfield partner will sit for you and stand in the middle of the park. Then you can sort of get forward and join in. Whereas the style, obviously, we play at Anderlecht, like you said, with a back four and being crucial in the build up from the back, and then controlling positions, counter attack as well. Obviously, you don't really get many times where you're finding yourself in the opposition box, but there's different ways that different formations change your role slightly, but I think the sort of basics and the principles of playing that position stay pretty similar. And at the end of the day, every player has their own identity, and you play with your feeling you have as a player, and your style within the system that whatever manager you're playing under in whatever formation.
Yeah, and in the system that Stephen had lined out against Luxembourg last time out, obviously it ended really well with the 3-0 win. How was it for you in midfield, I suppose, to start off with, where it was just yourself and Jeff more or less, and then obviously later in the game you had that bit more control when Jason Knight comes in? Like, was it kind of like a world of difference there, just because I suppose Luxembourg were playing kind of 3 players in the middle as well?
Yeah, I think sometimes it can be tough. Obviously, like you touched on there, if the opposition has 3 midfielders, obviously they have an overload in midfield, 3v2. So yeah, when you have a player like Knighty to come on and help you out in there with the energy he has and the quality he has, then it's brilliant. But I think, to be honest, the forward players that we have as well have done a brilliant job in helping us out as well defensively. So yeah, whoever's in there, I think's been doing a great job, and whether that's a bit more of a midfielder playing an advanced role or a more of a striker playing a deeper role, everyone's pulling their weight and working within the defensive organisation we're trying to all pull towards as a team, and yeah, everyone's been doing a great job. So long may that continue.
Yeah, and Jeff Hendrick has been somebody in midfield in the last 2 windows who's really kind of pushed on. Your partnership has sort of been the bedrock of the Ireland midfield of late. Like, how have you looked to develop that partnership, given, I suppose, the fact that international football, there's so many breaks in between? I guess it can be hard to develop a rhythm, but you seem to have clicked quite well with Jeff. Yeah,
no, definitely. Yeah, Jeff's been great to me on and off the pitch from the moment I stepped into the senior squad, and yeah, I have a good relationship with him off the pitch, which helps on the pitch. So, and playing with him's great. He's a quality player, vast experience for club and country, and yeah, I think we complement each other well. Obviously, he might sort of drive forward and venture forward a little bit more than me, but I think we balance off each other well, and yeah, it's been really enjoyable playing in there with him the last few games, and yeah, I think it's been a good partnership. But we have a lot of top midfielders, and the likes of Connor, Jason, Harry Arter, like you said, Knighty as well. Yeah, there's a lot of competition with places with top players, and yeah, it's been good to play in there with Jeff. But we know that whoever plays in there, that we have a good unit, and we all get on well together, and we're fully behind each other.
Yeah, and the year has ended on a high from the international point of view, and especially compared to how the 2021 would have started. In regard to the messaging from Stephen Kenny and his staff, did it change throughout the year, or was it the same kind of message being put through about the way you were going to approach games, and it just happens to have just with time borne fruit in the best possible way?
Yeah, no, it was the same messages. Yeah, I think the philosophy that the manager has, the players believed in from day one. But things like that take time. It was never going to click overnight and come in and try and play a new style of football, and it was just going to happen like that. It's something that takes time, and is tough for a club manager, let alone an international manager, when you don't have anywhere near as much time on the training pitch to work with the team. So yeah, it took some time. Obviously, we had positive performances with not getting the right results that we were after, but like you said, the sort of last couple of camps have been good, and we've got good results to go along with the performances, and I think that's a lot of credit goes during his staff for sticking to the philosophy and the way of playing when there was a little bit of pressure on us as players and obviously the management, and it could have easily been, right, we're going to change the way we're playing, but no, they were brave and stuck to their principles, and yeah, like you said, now we're seeing the rewards for it.
And also helped by the return of supporters in the last couple of windows as well. When you compare it to let's say the Luxembourg game in March, and then you fast forward to say the games towards the end, like the Portugal one, in terms of the atmosphere and the difference and what that brings to you, like, how do you compare them?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. Like, it's hard to explain how much of a difference that makes to a player. Obviously, when at the time when you're playing behind closed doors, you have to be professional and you still know the match means loads, and that you need to and create your own atmosphere, I suppose, as players. But nothing can recreate a full Aviva or a full away end wherever we're playing. Seeing our fans that have followed they've travelled to follow us and support us and turn out in their thousands and sell out the Aviva, that can't be recreated. So as much as it was at the time, it was tough for players, but we had to be professional and, like I said, create our own atmosphere. You can never create the atmosphere that the Ireland fans create, and we're lucky to have such great fans who back us home and away.
Yeah, and just a couple of things now before I let you go. So first off, when you made your West Ham debut, you were coming on for Joey O'Brien. Obviously, you've talked about Mark Noble as a captain and kind of, I suppose, as an inspiration, kind of playing in the same position as you. But Joey O'Brien, what was he like to you, I suppose, as a young player coming through? Because obviously he was kind of vastly experienced by that point. I think he left West Ham shortly after that.
Yeah, brilliant to me. Joey was great. I was lucky to be coming through at a time when there was a lot of really sort of good senior pros at West Ham who set a great example for us as young players, and Joey was one of them who set an example on and off the field, what it takes to become a professional and have a successful career. It was just great to be able to train with him and learn off him, and then, like you said, for him to make way for me in my professional debut. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and one final one. I'm more curious because this is the county I'm from, which is Leitrim, and I know your family background. I think it's on your father's side. Both grandparents are from Leitrim. Have you ever been? And if not, is it kind of on the bucket list of a place you're kind of intending to go when there's time, or maybe at the end of your career?
Yeah, no, it's massively. I haven't been. Obviously, my grandparents moved to London, but it is massively on my bucket list sooner rather than later to go. My parents, when I think it might have been last year now, went back and sent me some photos and pictures of where Nan and Granddad grew up and the houses they lived in, and it's 100% sooner rather than later. Definitely something that I'll be doing, because it's something I'm really intrigued to do and go back and see where my roots are, and it'll be really nice.
Good stuff. You'll get a good welcome anyway. So, but anyway, Josh, thanks a million for taking the time, and best of luck with the rest of the season with Anderlecht, and obviously the once international football returns in March as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
So that was Josh Cullen on his time with Anderlecht and also with Ireland. And also thanks to Anthony for joining me earlier. But that is it for this week and also for this year. The RT Soccer Podcast will be back next year for what 2022 has in store. But thanks a million for listening in this year. We'll be back very, very soon. But Happy New Year.